early 1900, 1909, was that all this? Yeah.
About that. Hopefully.
Yeah. Give or take. Yeah.
Give or take.
Good.
All right.
Well, welcome,
thank you.
Tom. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate the introduction. Yes, my name is Tom Lee, and I'm with Presidio. I've been in the IT industry for a while now, approaching 30 plus years, and kind of as Kevin alluded to, I was one of those folks that in the early days, we did all our pricing and all our scoping of professional services projects with spreadsheets. And I spent a lot of time figuring out how to do that and making more interesting spreadsheets and complicated spreadsheets. And spreadsheets are great, they're easy, but they get very complicated. And the biggest problem is inconsistency. And so we needed a better way to approach that. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. I'm also going to talk a little bit about AI. John's presentation was great, but man, it was scary. So I'm going to talk about some of the, I think, more positive ways that we can leverage artificial intelligence and some of those concepts and what we're looking to do within our company and how we're kind of tying that into Excite CPQ. So a little bit about let's try that again. It's not advancing.
Try the bottom one, Tom.
The bottom one? There we go. Okay, got it. Thank you. So a little bit about Presidio. So Presidio is a IT solution providing company. We have solutions that range from foundational technologies such as networking and collaboration, traditional data center type services, but we also have the majority of our services now are focused on cloud digital transformation, everything from application development to cloud migration and cybersecurity, AI governance, and solutions that fall into that area. So our focus really is helping our customers kind of figure out how to navigate a lot of these new technologies, how to migrate to them, and how to leverage them and integrate them into their organizations. And we have folks all around the world. We've got several thousand engineers throughout the United States, Europe, as well as India. We've got customers in all different verticals, ranging from manufacturing, media, entertainment. Oops, what just happened there? There we go. What's interesting, and one of the statistics I'd like to kind of point out, and I think this is relevant to us using a CPQ, is at any given time we have over 2,000 different professional services engagements going on around the world. So there's a lot of projects, there's a lot of activity, and we're generating probably in the neighborhood of every month several hundred new proposals for customers. So, and we've got about, I don't know, 300 or 400 individuals within Presidio that are generating those proposals pretty constantly. So we needed a way to add a lot of consistency and a lot of standardization and reduce the amount of time it would take us to get a solution in front of our customer. Our customers love us. One of the things they always kind of say is sometimes it just takes too long to get a proposal in our hands, because we have engineers that are perfectionists and they want to go through every little piece of detail and they want to create a custom solution for that client. And we struggled with this for many years. And a lot of professional services companies kind of have the same challenges, right? We either have a standard solution that we can sell you and we say, this is what we can give you. Can't change it, can't deviate. If your needs don't look like this, we don't have an offer for you. Or we have something that is totally custom and bespoke. It's a snowflake. And we spend a lot of time and we craft it. And it's a wonderful solution, but it takes us a while to do. And so once we put that together, it looks like a given solution for a particular customer, whatever it might be. Maybe it's a data center migration to Amazon or something like that. But then if another customer comes along a couple days later and wants pretty much the same solution, we start the process all over again. And we end up with a proposal that's a little different. The solution's a little different. It might even cost a different amount of money. And it's basically the same thing. So like there has to be a better way. We have to be able to come up with a way to standardize and allow our solution architects, the engineers that are creating these solutions, to do it in a more standardized way and leverage and reuse components. So that's what we were trying to accomplish with deploying a CPQ. And when we started looking at this, what we found is not a lot of folks had leveraged CPQ technology in the services business. It was great if you were doing products or hardware, if you're assembling devices or things like that. And we're like, we should be able to use the same concept within professional services. So that's what we're really trying to do as we looked at these different solutions, right? So we want to be able to have a tool that will let us have the majority of our scope, reference a single set of services, and put them all together quickly for our customers. And this was kind of a game changer for us, right? Now we didn't have to start from scratch every time, and we could have consistency. And if we can have consistency in the creating of our proposals with standard components, now we can do things like approve them faster. We can get them in front of a customer faster. And when a customer comes to us and says, hey, this is what we need to accomplish, this is what we're trying to do, our solution architects can leverage a standardized service catalog and put something in front of a customer faster. So at the end of the day, it's all about velocity, right? And this kind of summarizes what we were trying to achieve, right? Simplify the process, speed it up, and optimize the overall thing. And this helps us get a better quality proposal in front of our customers faster, right? It also reduces the amount of time that our really intelligent, highly paid engineers need to spend putting together a proposal. So they can spend more time with the customer, crafting a solution, selling, building a relationship, and less time on the back end doing the mechanical work of putting together a scope. We hire a lot of consultants, a lot of architects, and a lot of engineers that may not understand all the low-level specific details of the solution. A lot of the things we do are very complex. They take a lot of time. There's a lot of components. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of complexity. And a lot of times our engineers don't understand all of the nuances that are involved in doing that. So by us standardizing what goes into a solution, and putting that into a service catalog within CPQ, they don't necessarily need to understand all of the low-level details. They can focus on the higher level solution. Make them more business consultants as opposed to the low-level technical engineers, which has helped us a lot. So the big question becomes, how do we do this? How do we take technology that was designed originally for products and assembling cars or servers or buildings or whatever, and apply that to professional services? And the way we kind of look at it is we kind of think of our professional services kind of like a Lego analogy is probably the best way that I can describe it. Every project that we do for a customer, every solution we provide may indeed be unique, because every one of our customers, every one of their problems is unique. You're trying to do different things. So we said, if we take a custom solution, can we break that down into standard components? Within even the most complex professional services engagements, there's a lot of standard pieces. And if we assemble all those standard pieces together, we can build a custom project. So we broke down the things that we do into smaller modules, like a Lego block. Now I can take standard Lego blocks and I can build a spaceship, I can build a car, I can build a whole town out of those same Lego blocks. But I don't need to build them from scratch because I'm using standardized Lego blocks, right? So we did the same approach with our professional services. And each one of these Lego blocks has a bunch of different components, right? We have information that kind of is tied to each one of those things. It might be the people that are doing the work. It may be the cost or the price of that particular thing. It may be the number of hours that are going to be involved in that particular item. And then we can put these things together. And that's kind of what we do. So I'll let this kind of animate and go to the next slide. So we take these modules and we can start assembling them. And every one of the modules kind of represents different things. It might represent some assessment or some design or some planning. And we can start layering them together to do different things. So now we can leverage functionality within Excite CPQ. We have these things called templates, and we can pre-assemble these modules because we don't want to have an engineer always figuring out what Legos do I need. We want to give them a blueprint. Actually, we want to go a step further. We want to pre-assemble those Legos into a little mini project and put that out there so they can just pick it from a drop-down list. Right? Now, if we do that, we can actually take that a step further, and we can take some of these templates and we can now turn them into full offerings. And we can put sales and marketing wrappers around them, fancy, glossy sheets and service descriptions and put in front of our customers. So now I can walk into a customer and I can have a conversation, understand what they're trying to do. Maybe we determine they need an ISO 27001 assessment or something along those lines. And we can say, hey, this is what we can do. And we can go into Excite and we can pick ISO 27001 assessment, boom, we can price it and it's done. And literally in a matter of minutes, we can generate a proposal to provide that service to the customer and give them a price pretty quickly. Now they might say, you know what, that's great, I need that, but I need to customize this aspect of it. What you have out of the box isn't exactly what I need. So we have the ability now to take this and add some customization to it. So I might start with this standard template, but then I might add in a few extra custom things. So now it's a combination of a standard offering plus some optional components. And in this way, we can build really an infinite number of engagements, as custom as our customers require, but we're still building it all up from standard modules. So that's been pretty revolutionary for us. And it's allowed us to move very quickly from understanding what the customer's trying to do to being able to put a proposal in front of them. So we've taken that time. Some simple projects, right? We saw less of an improvement with a simple, straightforward type time and materials type thing, because they're never that hard to put together anyways. But our more complex projects that might be months or even years in duration, could be hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars in size, we found that the creation time for those projects has been reduced dramatically. The other benefit that we've really seen is the amount of time that has been saved when we're doing repetitive work. So we have a lot of customers that are in the retail vertical, and we often do the same or similar projects for them at maybe hundreds of locations. So we have customers that have hundreds of locations, and we're doing upgrade work or installation work or migration work for them. And so we'll put together a proposal for them. And using this template approach and these offering approach, we can then turn around those subsequent proposals literally in a matter of minutes. We don't need to reinvent it every single time. And it allows us to have multiple pre-sales engineers working on putting all of these together. So that's been an interesting benefit of this, is it's allowed us to shift who does this work. In the past, we needed our most skilled, our most experienced, and our most highly compensated engineers to create these proposals, which took them out of the field and took them out from spending time in front of the customer. Now we can take more junior level folks that are learning the business, and we can have them create these proposals with the same level of quality and the same degree of accuracy and efficiency. So that's allowed us to be a lot more efficient from a service delivery perspective with our clients. So just kind of a brief example of kind of what this has allowed us to do. And this is just I don't want this to be an ad or anything like that for Presidio, but this is an example of something that we do. It's a VMware Cloud Foundation deployment. And we've kind of pre-created this proposal document for our customers. And we can go into Excite CPQ, and by a couple of drop downs and a couple of mouse clicks, we can build and price a service that starts out at a certain price. We can add in a couple of configurable options depending on the scale of what the customer needs, and we can turn this around in a matter of minutes. There's a whole lot that happens on the back end to make this happen, but from a customer's perspective, it's very easy. We've tried to create a frictionless environment for our customers to engage with us. So, we did this, and this is great, but hey, why did that just go back? Excuse me? Oh, can I pause this for a minute? I'm sorry. Now I have to read in Norwegian. No, I think that's it. Is that slide timing? That looks like slide timing. I think I got it. I successfully read Norwegian? Is it advancing? It's not. Yes. Okay. That was pretty good. So we kind of determined that I like this slide because this is a slide we use with our customers when we start talking about artificial intelligence, because it really kind of frames why. Why do we care? Why do we need to bother to look at AI to kind of make what we do better? Well, I mentioned before, this whole idea of the need for speed. It's all about velocity. For any of you that are involved in sales and working with customers, the faster you can get a proposal to the customer, the better. But it's no good, it's actually terrible if you get a wrong proposal to the customer quickly. So we need to get it to them quickly, but you can't say, oops, sorry, I made a mistake, can I redo it? So it has to be accurate, right? We have to be able to trust what we're putting in front of the customer. But at least it feels like in the sales cycle, the most important aspect is velocity. So how do we continually improve the process so we can make it faster and faster, right? So in order to do that, we have to simplify the process. And there's a lot of talk about distributing who does what and how things are doing. But the simplification means we can't keep adding tools. We need fewer tools. We need tools that have more intelligence in them so we can make the workflow for the humans easier, right? The other aspect of this is the concept of commoditization versus personalization. So everybody wants something that feels like it is bespoke to them, that you did this for me, that I'm not just picking something off a shelf and handing you something that's been created for everybody else, right? They want to understand that the solution is tailored to them. As a provider, we want to make that as standardized and modular as possible. And we kind of want the benefits of commoditization. So how do we get both of those things? And that's one of the key things that I think AI helps us do, is we can get some of the benefits of commoditization because we can have the technology in the background kind of doing a lot of automation. But at the same time, what comes out of the tool is it feels bespoke. It feels like it's really tailored and personalized for that particular customer. And if we do all of these things, this is how we get that whole frictionless environment. This is how we make it easy to do business. This is how we make the customer say, wow, that was great, thank you, right? It was quick, it was easy, it was cost effective, and oh, by the way, you did a good job with the project advocates, and that's ultimately what we're looking for. So this is kind of how we're looking to add AI capabilities into our CPQ deployment. So we have this whole modular structure, and we kind of put this together. And when we look at kind of some of the challenges with artificial intelligence, you have to kind of start with kind of what the business needs are. What are we trying? And that kind of previous slide kind of talks to what a lot of what we're trying to accomplish. The other thing is I think people get very nervous about artificial intelligence because they're like, how do I do this? It's a little daunting. Do I need to buy $5 million worth of NVIDIA GPUs? The media probably would like you to think you do, but you don't. There's a lot of ecosystems out there. There's a lot of tools. Companies like Amazon and Microsoft and Azure and Google have a lot of capabilities that you can leverage. And what I'm going to show you here in a couple of slides is some things that we did basically for free. And it's amazing the things that you can do. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And you can leverage some of these larger ecosystems, but you have to be careful to make sure that you maintain control of your own data and your own logic and how you're training your AI systems. We had a conversation the other day regarding the CPQ, and one of the things that we're using it for is for approval of our proposals. So once we create a proposal, we use Excite to run it through a multi-level approval process. We're reviewing it for technical accuracy, we're reviewing it from a project management perspective, but we're also approving it and reviewing it for pricing exceptions, margin exceptions, a bunch of other things as well. And someone asked, wouldn't that be a great thing to use AI for? And my opinion is that's actually probably the worst place to use AI for. Because as we saw from the salmon fillets swimming upriver, AI doesn't always do the right thing. So the whole idea of kind of human oversight is really, really important. So what we will do and what we are doing is we're leveraging more and more AI on the creation side of things, but we're maintaining the human intervention on the approval side of things. And that allows us to make sure that we don't put a proposal out there in front of a customer that's just wrong, right? So it gives us the ability to kind of have that last piece of oversight before we put something in front of the customer. Because again, you know, the wrong thing quickly is worse than the right thing slowly. So let me talk a little bit about what we've done. And this has been a multi-phase journey for us, okay? We started a couple of years ago, actually. We had some developers that kind of took a project kind of on their own, and they said, what if we were to leverage machine learning and some AI constructs and engines to evaluate all of the proposals that we've created, all of them, like for the last 5 years, and feed those in and train an AI model on them, and use that to predict whether or not a current proposal the customer was going to approve it or not, if we were going to win. And we thought this was kind of an interesting project, so we did it. We had people were kind of skeptical, and we did some testing, and the model looked like it was pretty accurate. We back tested it, we fed in old proposals, and the ones that it said we should have won, we did, and the ones that said we were probably going to lose, we lost. And what it was doing is it was looking at phrases and words, and it was analyzing. It's like an intelligent search. It was scanning through, and it was kind of looking at statistics and all this sort of stuff. Well, we had a project. It was in Wisconsin, and the account manager and the engineer had put together 3 proposals to the customer. And the account manager says, I think the customer is going to go with option A, but they're not going to go with option B. And option C, they're not going to do option, they're going to do option A. So the model predicted exactly the opposite. The customer was going to go with B and C. And what it was is it was kind of like A was a less expensive, kind of stripped down thing. B and C were kind of the same project, split into 2 phases, but the combined of them was actually more expensive, but it was better. And the account manager, thinking they knew the customer pretty well, was like, no, they're gonna go with the cheaper option A. The model was right, the account manager was wrong. And this was kind of an eye-opener for everybody. And we're kind of like, we did this a couple other times, and it was actually a pretty good predictive model, just looking at the track record. But it wasn't creating anything, it was just kind of predicting. So that's kind of where we started on this. Then we said, okay, kind of in phase 2, we're like, what if we take this a step further and we create a little bot, short for robot, a little AI, engine, if you will, and we take all that same data that we trained this predictive model on, and instead of just having it predict what was going to win, what if we said, okay, let's make it like a chat bot, like a chat GPT type natural language interface, and we allow it to tell us what the proposal should look like. So if we feed in the requirements for what the customer's trying to do, in this case, what we built was, we do a lot of collaboration, voice systems, communication systems, and right now we have a lot of customers that have on-prem phone systems, PBXs, IP telephony, etc., and they're all moving to cloud. They're all moving to Zoom or Microsoft Teams or WebEx or things like that. So we have a pretty standard offering that basically takes a customer that has an on-prem voice and video conferencing environment and moves them all up to the cloud. It's great, everybody's doing it. And we do a lot of these. So we train this bot with all of our historical projects that we've done. And we created a little interface for it, and I'll show you this here in a couple of slides. And we said, hey, can you kind of help us create proposals? Can you predict, based on the requirements that I give you, how many hours we should have? And what's the ballpark price, plus or minus 10% of what that project should cost? And so we started using that, and we found it to be pretty accurate when we back tested against projects that we've actually done. So that was pretty cool. Our next phase was an interesting example. We said, okay, well, if we can use that AI language model to calculate effort and pricing, What if we had to build an entire statement of work for us? Could we use an AI large language model to literally replace what an essay would do? And the answer is not yet. But what we found is the statements of work, the Word docs, I mean, it was generating a full Word document, were pretty good. But here's the problem. Much like some of the examples we saw earlier this morning that John shared, every one was different. Every proposal, you could ask the bot to do the same project and then come back a couple days later and ask exactly the same thing, and you would get 2 different proposals. The words were different, right? The formatting might have been the same, but they were slightly different because that AI model is constantly learning and constantly adapting, so it's constantly changing. In a way, that's good, but for our purposes, it was exact opposite of what we were trying to achieve in terms of standardization and consistency. So I'm like, well, this is terrible. This is actually taking a step backwards. We could do this with humans. I don't want inconsistency. I don't want variability. So what I kind of posited was, what if we kind of take that AI generative technology and use that to feed into Excite, into the service catalog? Rather than using the AI model to generate an entire SOW, why don't we just use it to generate what will become the standard language that we use for all of those Lego blocks? Because every one of those Lego blocks that we have in our service catalog has statement of work text. It has a scope. It has client responsibilities. It's got assumptions and deliverable descriptions and all of that. So we decided to kind of take what we learned from that phase 3 Gen AI and apply it and link it into Excite. So what we can do now is if we have a new service, we can use this bot to create the standard text once. We know it's good text because the AI bot said, hey, this text has a high degree of likelihood of actually winning. So it's good, robust content. It's clear. It is answering your question. It's not ambiguous. So we would take that content and then feed that into Excite. And we're in the process now of kind of building out to kind of automate that process. Today we do it offline. We then bring that into Excite, but we're actually looking to leverage the Excite API so we can automate that process. So we can describe to the tool, hey, this is what the service is. Tell me how we should do this. And then take that text and it'll go into the database within Excite. And now it can be reused in a consistent manner going forward over and over again. So we took it a step further, and I said, this is kind of our final state for now. Looking at combining those 2 pieces, right? We want to have the AI help us figure out the effort, and we want to have the AI help us figure out the content, but we still want to be able to bring that together and use the CPQ as the tool that ties that all together, okay? And that's kind of the point that we're working through and we're building it out at the moment. So I want to show you what this little bot kind of looks like. We call it the Magic 8 Ball. Anybody here use a Magic 8 Ball before? It's great. You take it, you shake it up, you ask it a question, it gives you an answer. So that's kind of what we did with this. We decided to use this, focus on these collaboration upgrades. And this is just one technology, and we're going to expand this to other technologies that we find that are very, very repeatable. And we looked at how our best engineers and architects would scope one of these projects. And we found that they drew from their experience. And sometimes it'd just be like, gut feel, it's gonna take this much time. I need this many people, this is the approach we're gonna do. They all kind of look the same. And we've done thousands of these projects, so we kind of know the basic structure of them. So we trained the bot on all of those parameters, right? And we built an interface. We actually do this through Cisco WebEx Teams. So it's a little natural language interface, and you type and you converse, and it gives you, it asks you questions, and it pops up. And I think I actually have a screenshot of this here on the next slide. If it actually updates, there we go. So it kind of walks you through, and it asks a bunch of questions, and we get a bunch of input about what the requirements are. And these are questions that one of our architects would ask the customer. So we can be sitting in a meeting with a customer with a laptop, where we can be asking these questions, and we can be typing the answers into this. And then what comes out the other side is an estimate of how many hours it's gonna take to do this work. And then we took it a step further and said, okay, let's come up with some budgetary pricing. Now, this pricing, okay, right here it is a budgetary estimate. What we're doing right now is we're building an interface in Excite through some of the CPQ constructs where all of this information will get passed automatically into an Excite quote. So leveraging the API and some JSON interfaces and a bunch of other things there, we're gonna pass all this information in here, and Excite is going to then have this information and all these hours that the bot calculated, and we will apply all of our corporate pricing rules to that, and the resources and the rates and the territory specific pricing and all of those items and whatever discounts, and actually come up with an actual price, not just an estimate. Now the bot will actually generate a PowerPoint presentation. So it's a full high-level presentation. Here's the solution we just presented. Right? Excite will then take all this information and using it and generate an actual statement of work proposal. So by combining these two things and integrating them, we're actually looking at probably gonna add a little button right into Excite CPQ. So you go into Excite, you open up your opportunity, you click the button, it will launch this. So now you can interact with the bot in a separate window, it's a little web browser window, and you'll be able to plug all this stuff in and hit another button, it'll push that information right back into Excite. And now you've got a budgetary estimate for your customer, you've got a PowerPoint that you can leave them, you've got a statement of work that we can then run through approvals if the customer says, yeah, this looks good. Because we don't want to go through the whole approval review and everything unless the customer's like, yeah, we're in the ballpark, that's pretty good, all right, we're on the same page, right? Let's move forward. So this whole thing is great. It's taken a process that was an iterative back and forth process that could take days or weeks, even for a simple project, and reduced it to hours or days. So that's a little bit kind of what we're doing. You know, I guess in kind of wrap up here, you know, in summary, I mean, this is kind of what we found that, well, leveraging CPQ has been great, and it's created a lot of standardization, it's created a lot of simplicity for us, kind of layering in a bit more intelligence and leveraging some kind of strategic use of some AI tools that are readily available. We've really been able to kind of streamline the whole process and keep things still consistent and kind of reduce both the time to sale as well as the cost of sale. That bot, by the way, that we put together, this whole thing runs in a container on AWS using free, generally available open source tools, you know, through Amazon. It's you know, it's something that, you know, pretty much anybody that's versed in development, scripting, has some background working with some Amazon cloud tools can build. So it is not rocket science. The ecosystem tools and capabilities that are out there are becoming better and better and easier, more accessible all the time. So that's what I have. Any questions? No questions?